I don't know it to be a fact. It hasn't been stated to me. In fact, all of my conversations continue to be delightful with everyone involved. But did you ever just have a feeling, Pete, that something is changing?
Um, uh, maybe.
So I have been
Might be with-
writing reviews for Games Radar for almost a decade. And my latest review was for NBA Live 15, which went out last week or so. And I don't know if anybody knows anything about Games Radar, but they continue to evolve as every single outlet does. And now, recently, most of the people who worked for them don't work there anymore. And most of the people that are, well, I don't know about most, but Future owns Games Radar as well as many other things, and they were for many years a big magazine publisher. Many of those magazines have gone away, and they continue to own various sort of properties. And anyway, Future now sort of has Games Radar in two places, one in England and one in San Francisco. And the San Francisco office used to be by far the dominant sort of voice of the site, and over the course of the last year or so, that's really dwindled down. Most of the people have moved on. Long story short, and again, it's not like anyone said anything to me or there's anything other than wonderful, nice, cordial conversations. But I just get the feeling that I probably won't be doing any more reviews for Games Radar anymore. Which
Really?
is, and again, it's not like it's happened, but you just as you work with people and things, and you see how situations change. And you see how Games Radar has changed. Games Radar has survived, but I don't know if you ever go there or not, Pete, but it's a very different site than it was. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just, it's very SEO driven, very list heavy. They recently announced that they're going to be, adding content related to like comics and movies and stuff. So again, they're fighting for survival.
Right.
But most of the people that I had any sort of relationship are gone. Obviously, still the global editor-in-chief, Sophia Tong, who has worked with me for a long time. But most of it's in England now, and just it feels like they're getting away and further away from the kind of stuff that I'd be doing. And I don't know, it's just weird. I just have this weird feeling that I won't be doing a whole lot with them anymore as a freelancer. Anyway, I mean. Freelancing is always kind of weird and haphazard. But it's strange. It's a weird feeling. Like I said, no one said anything to me, right? But sometimes you have a feeling about the way things are going, and that's just. And I'm not even sure that I think that's a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a thing.
Right. The only bad thing about it is your wallet, I guess. But
yeah,
twofold, because you've never told me, but I've always assumed you're not making, piles of money writing reviews. I've done freelance work myself. I tend to, you've been in the business longer. I'm sure you pull more than I could, but it's not a lot of money. But you combine that with also getting the game for free, and you review sports games, so these are games that you would buy, and then it starts to become pretty big. If you get rid of that, it's like, oh wow, okay, that changes my finances.
It's an excellent point, and one I hadn't even thought of very much until right now, so thanks. Now I feel even worse.
It's good. It's good that you weren't thinking about that, because as a video game journalist like you are.
Oh, stop it! Stop it! Right
you shouldn't be thinking to yourself like, I'm doing this for the free games, But that's just I'm just trying to sour your mood further.
You definitely don't get rich as a video game review freelancer.
No, that's not the path.
No, not the path to riches.
Right.
But it is, in a lot of ways, practically speaking, in my life, it'll make my life easier. I mean, you want to do a decent review, you're talking 10 hours minimum between
Right.
playing a game and writing it, and often much more than that. And
Mhm.
as somebody who already has, really, I mean, I've got a career, then I've got Press Row, which is a second job, and this is almost like the third job. Like, you know,
Mhm.
from a
Talking to me is definitely a third job.
and there's still, even though the media, the games media, and the media in itself continues to convulse and not know what direction is up, down,
Mhm.
left, or right day to day. It's still kind of nice to be a Metacritic, to be able to publish something on Metacritic site, and your opinion sort of matters in a way. I suppose that's kind of a cool thing. But
Right.
on the other hand, getting several hundred hours of my life back next year, if this in fact it does wind up being the case, I could see some benefit in that, I think.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know that there's definitely been times when, you and I have been talking and it's like, oh, we should play, so and so sports game. And you're like, but I really got to get this thing done.
Yep.
Or a lot of times after podcasts, you're like, man, I want to play the golf club, but I have to work on, this review or this whatever. So I can see that. It's definitely it gets kind of boring too. That's something that I actually wrote about on the site this week, and it came from Stephen Totillo of Kotaku. He did a podcast with Total Biscuit where they talked about ethics and game journalism, but one of just sort of the aside questions was like Total Biscuit asked him like what do people not know about writing about games? And Stephen Totila was like, most of it's really boring. He's like, you write stories about a game going gold. He's like, or you review a game and you play it for 30 hours straight. He's like, and it just, and it's like, yeah, it almost ruins your hobby in a way.
Yeah, which is why it's nice to be a freelancer with a full-time job, to
Right.
where, yes, it's nice having the extra money. It's nice getting a game for free. As the years have gone on, the ratio of getting a game for free and getting extra money to amount of time and things that you're not able to do because of that, the ratio has tipped in a way that is less positive every year. Um, but great example. And another nice thing is, right, thanks to writing for years and making relationships, I've been able to create Press Row, and Press Row is an outlet for me to still have an opinion and discuss it with other people, even if I don't do the review. And
Right.
you take a game like NBA 2K15, where I actually didn't do a review,
Mhm.
and I've been playing it, and every day I play it, I like it a little bit more. That would not have come out, in my opinion, had I reviewed it, because had I been
Right.
under a time crunch for a few days, it would have been not as positive as I'm going to gush about it a little later on tonight, because it's a
Well,
great game.
yeah, it is. And it's grown on me as well. But you and Games Radar both benefited, and you're both sort of moving on. Like the industry is shifting. Podcasts are huge, as you know now. I mean, especially Press Row, not particularly this one, but I mean, you I talk to you all the time, and you're like, man, I'm talking to advertisers. I'm trying to get this dev on for this day, and it's like you're putting a ton of work into that, and it's like that's the next sort of logical step to me in the evolution of the way that games are covered. People go to streams, they go to podcasts, they go to stuff instead of sitting there and reading a block of text and then looking at the score at the bottom.
I mean, Bill Simmons is a great example, right? He used to write for years, and then he started podcasting, and he realized podcasting is wildly more fun to do and to
Right.
and to be a part of
That's the best part too, is that it's easier. It's like when people, it's like, oh, people like this, and it's easier. Awesome.
Yep. So like I said, it's not like anyone said anything. It is the end of the sports season. I mean, I wouldn't. There are now games writers run mostly by Brits from the editorial side, so they'll clearly be handling the Pro Evo review. And I guess the next time that I might have the opportunity to do something for them would be in the spring. So we'll see if I get the call for the show or whether what happens with the site. It's fascinating to watch. Again, as somebody who's a participant, but my life doesn't depend on it. It's fascinating to watch it change.
Right. I mean, even looking at what sites are doing now, I mean, Polygon's gone more Kotaku-esque. I actually like the changes that Kotaku has made recently, where they have stated they're going to do less previews because that's usually filled with fluff and just bullshit, and they're going to do more talking about games that are already out. Like they put a person on Destiny. So when things like the loot cave pop up, or right now there's a glitch where you can dance on top of your little jet speeder, like they cover that stuff, and that's actually one of the things that was in my mind for Dodd Scientifics from the beginning, was sort of following up with games and stuff. So when they started doing it, I was like, damn you! But it's a good idea, and they're doing it really well, I think. I enjoyed actually go to Kotaku more often now since they've made that switch.
It's something that I certainly noticed and got me thinking, and not that directly, but the thinking that I had actually influenced the show Press Row last week, where we did a 60-day look back at Madden 15. I'm like, I realized as I'm looking at the shows that we've done that we did a lot about Madden in the 2 or 3 weeks beforehand, had developers come on, and then we did the first, the big show, the review roundtable, and then we quickly moved on to the next thing and the next thing. Meanwhile, we're all playing Madden every 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, at least.
And hating it and everything in between. So we kind of had hey, how do we all feel about it now? And it was interesting, and then I realized I looked at my notes and I still didn't get into some of the stuff that I wanted to say about it. So,
remember the desyncs? Because that was the biggest deal ever, but now it's they're gone, so it's distant memory.
Exactly right. It's now that all our games get played, it's wow, amazing. That almost killed the game, and now it's just it's all good. I mean, it's funny. But, and I'm thinking about doing the same thing with NBA. Not FIFA. I've had a few FIFA shows. But I'm thinking about doing the same thing with NBA 2K in a month or so. Just okay, it's been out for a while. The initial bumps are gone.
Right.
What do you love? What don't you love about NBA 2K? I don't know. I mean...
It makes a lot of sense with sports games, too, because they do evolve. I mean, all strategy games do in sports. I mean, that's why we love sports, is it's athleticism mixed with strategy, So the way that people play them, the little tweaks that happen in the patches and stuff, I mean, the way you play on day 60 is very different than day 1 or day 5.
But the question is, how do you still create interesting content around that? Do you just... Because after a while, you'll be rehashing the same points or having virtually the same conversation, so that's not interesting.
Right.
And which is why we only did 45 minutes, not even, on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, had we kept on going, it would have been the same conversation. That's the challenge related to that. Okay, people like to hear us talk about Madden, but after the third podcast, what more are you going to say about it, other than telling the stories of your own league, which some people really like and some people really hate when we do that.
Right. It's kind of like people who play poker a lot, and then you hang out with them, and they're just they start telling you about hands that they're I had 2 aces, and this guy had a 2 and a 5, but then on the river he got another 5, and he had a full house, and it was a 1 and it's I'm sure that was really exciting then, but I don't care.
Well, It's like fantasy football, right? When people, to me, and again, this is me, I'm a maniac, right? When people tweet about their personal fantasy football teams and scores, I'm just like, that is so completely not interesting to anybody on the planet, right? I don't know. I'm weird like that.
No, I feel the same way. My wife and I have been watching a show called The League, which is about fantasy football, and the show is hysterical. But she's like, should we play fantasy football? Is it fun? And I'm like, no. I'm like, it ruins football for me personally. It's like you start cheering for players instead of the team, and then all of like the strategy and the rivalries and all of that stuff gets completely thrown out the window, and everything that I liked about football in the first place is gone. That's my feeling on fantasy football.
Well, not only does not playing fantasy football make watching the games on Sundays infinitely more fun, but playing in online sports leagues, to me, not only scratches the fantasy football itch, but for me personally is 25 times more entertaining because
Right.
I like I just like playing the games and playing with my friends and the stories that it tells. Like I get all, if not more, of the social benefit sort of from the
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing with fantasy football is you're making a competition out of football, but we have a Madden league, so we already have a competition made out of football.
Yep, and we have our own narratives and our own stories. Yep. So it's good to see you, Pete. We haven't spoken for a week. I mean, you and I basically now only talk during the podcast.
Yeah. Well, you have been traveling for work like a madman.
And then family. I went on a little mini two-day trip with my family. So yeah, one or the other. And I'm doing it all again next week. Not traveling overseas or overnight, but I'm going to be spending most of the week in New York City next week. So the parade does not continue. I love being in Manhattan, though. Anytime I go to Manhattan, I'm like, it just feels like work's really getting done. I love that feeling when I go there for business.
Manhattan is... It has to be experienced. I think like I grew up in an hour east of it, and then I lived in Brooklyn for 3 years, and even with all of that, every time especially when you end up down near the south end of the island, and you just look up and it's skyscrapers like through the clouds, and it's just like, and people are just walking 1 trillion miles an hour everywhere. It's really an amazing sight. I've
been there many hundreds of times, and every time I go, I get jazzed. I just love it. It does. I've never not been in Manhattan when I haven't been like, yes, I love this.
Right. Yeah. I always took pictures, and Arne was like, "You look like a tourist." And I'm like, "I don't care that I live in Brooklyn. This is cool looking."
I always look up. I look up at all the skyscrapers. Every time I walk by the Empire State Building and the Chrysler Building, I look up at them, and I don't care. I live an hour away. I don't care. I'm looking, and you're not going to make me feel bad about it. I like it. Not you, Pete Dodd. Just
I'm with you.
Whatever people are looking at me with disdain, and I see all of you doing that.
Yeah, they are.
Pete Dodd, tell me about the Binding of Isaac.
I love the Binding of Isaac. I do not know how you would feel about the Binding of Isaac.
I can play it for free. I know that. I do have it available.
And it's on the Vita and the PS4. And there's a cross save, but it's not really working for me currently. But it doesn't matter because, like Spelunky, it's a roguelike, in that when you die, you're back at the beginning. It's basically a mix between a twin-stick shooter and a Zelda dungeon, like the original Legend of Zelda, top-down. Like you move up, down, left, right. There's doors you go through. You can actually bomb walls, and that leads to secret areas. And there are 1 trillion items that have various effects. Some of them good, some of them negative. There's many different bosses and stuff. So like the game's only like five or six levels long. but it's different every time. Every time you play it, it's procedurally generated, and you never know what you're going to get. Like, you may have a run where you get the most powerful stuff ever, and you're like, this game's super easy. And then you'll have like 25 games in a row where you just, like, you're dead in the first or second level going down. It is... I don't know if controversial is the word for it. It's gross. You fight poop. You find coins and stuff in poop. The whole story is about your schizophrenic mother who thinks she's getting messages from God to kill her son. So you jump down this thing, and that's when you start your sort of descent down. It's definitely the guy who made it, Ed McMillan, I believe that's how it's pronounced. They made Super Meat Boy, or he was half of the team that made Super Meat Boy, and it's very much in his sort of sense of humor and whatnot. Like he reminds me a lot of like my friends I had growing up, like just sort of like metalhead. Like I'm just into like, you know, like dark stuff, but like I don't take it seriously. It's funny, you know. So it's like there's, you know, so you're basically like a little kid who's crying. Like your weapons are actually your tears, and you fight poop. But the actual gameplay is amazing. So the aesthetic is definitely, and the story too. I mean, like I don't think that the story is offensive in any way to Christians, because I think it's a story about someone who's schizophrenic. I don't think it's a story about religion. But the fact that she thinks she's getting messages from God, I think, will put people who are religious off from it, you know? And then other people who just, you know, don't want to play a game with poop in it will also not like it. So those are the things that will bother people. Neither of those things bother me, but nor do they excite me. The reason why I love the game is for all of the random elements and the way that they come together, and it feels like every time I play the game, I'm playing a different game because the power-ups are so vastly different. Like one time I had lasers instead of tears, so it was like it just played like a completely different game, and I love it. I think it's great. I think it's a great handheld game. It's fun to play on the PS4 as well, as a sort of palate cleanser between bigger titles.
Did you play it before, or is this the first time you played it?
Yeah, I played it on the PC when it came out, and it didn't have controller support. Well, you had to download this app called like Joy to Key or something like that, and I had trouble with that, and I tried playing it with the keyboard. It didn't really work for me, but I could tell. I was like, I knew I could get into it, you know, like it just. I was like, I like this. There's just something not happening, and then it was like, you know, I think it was Shahid or somebody was like, you know, Binding of Isaac's coming to the Vita, and then I was like, delete off the PC. I'm gonna wait for that because it's perfect for that, you know, which is how I feel about most indie games.
So our good friend Scoba1, David Ryan, says, why does Binding of Isaac make me want to break things? It seems to be like a Rogue Legacy with the fun removed. Clearly you do not share that opinion.
Well, it definitely can get frustrating. It has a lot in common with Rogue Legacy in terms of not every power-up you get is a power-up, and that's the worst. Like, I've been like 4 or 5 levels down, and I'm like, I'm going to beat it this time. I have all of this stuff, and then I get something, and it just completely screws my character. Like, I'm like cursed, and I have like 1 health now where I had like 8 hearts before, and like all this stuff. Like, the random nature of it makes it extremely frustrating sometimes. But when all of the random things go right, combined with skill, it feels great. When all of the random things go wrong, but your skill overcomes it, that feels great as well. So it's a double-edged sword, kind of, like it definitely can be frustrating though.
It's strange, and I know this is not the case, but it seems like roguelikes have become the thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know what a roguelike was a couple of years ago.
So I used to play Rogue back in the day. I loved it.
What does roguelike even mean? I don't understand that terminology.
Well, Rogue was a game where it was randomly generated. You started, like, it was really basic graphics. This is back in the 80s. And you go and you're like level 1, and you go and you just bump into a creature, and that does 1 damage, and you take 1 damage. But then you find a sword, so then when next time you bump into a creature, it does 3 damage. And you power yourself up, but when you die, it's game over. Everything that you just did is gone, and the next time you play it, the level layout's completely different. So you can't even like learn patterns, because that was the whole thing in the 80s. Like the vast majority of video gaming in the 80s was memorizing patterns, like in side-scrolling, shooters, shoot 'em ups and stuff. It was all about that. So this took that out of it. It was like every single time you had to come up with a new plan, and you had to hope, like, man, I hope I get a sword soon. Why doesn't this level have a sword on it? Okay, there's the staircase down to level 2. I hope I find a sword really quick on that. And then you don't, and then you get killed, and you're like, this game hates me. And then the next time you play, there's a sword in the first room. So it's interesting, and I'm glad that it's making a comeback.
The Crew. You've been playing the Crew beta. Is that correct? Because I'm very interested to hear about this.
Yeah, it's awful.
Really?
It is awful.
Oh. Dear.
Well, here's the thing. I like racing games, as you know.
I also like racing games.
You've had me and Greg Seward on 2 years straight on the Press Row podcast to talk about racing games. Something stood out to me. There is a guy on the Dodd Scientific forums who goes on the forums by the name of DJ Funk Monk, and he said something along the lines of like, this game is hot garbage. This is not a racing game. And that second line stuck with me, and I played the game about 3 or 4 hours later, and as I was playing it, I was like, this isn't a racing game. This is Watch Dogs or Grand Theft Auto or Sleeping Dogs or any of those open world games. I would say Assassin's Creed, but it has to have cars in it. It's any of those open world games with cars, Saints Row, whatever, except for the only missions are the driving missions. That's what the Crew is. And the driving missions in all of those games are pretty shitty, but they're a change of pace. It's like you do 3, 4, 5 missions where you're shooting at guys, and then when you finally get to drive, you're like, okay, this is something different. When you build a whole game around those types of missions, it is awful. And when your car handling feels as crappy as those open world games do, the cars do not feel like they're on the ground. It feels like you are driving a hover car. Like, you don't feel any difference being on dirt or on the road, or and like, you can go through like bushes, you can go through like a 10 square foot area of shrubs, and like you don't slow down, the controller doesn't even vibrate, you just go through them. It's just a really crappy game with a really crappy story, and it's typical Ubisoft where it's like, you have to go and hack into this thing. And then when you do, you can see that area on your map, and there's a million side quests, and there's 47 meters to fill up to level up to the next thing. And yeah, so it's Assassin's Creed, Watch Dogs, GTA, the racing game, except for.
Oh dear, this. Why the beta? What's the point of the beta? Is it like an MMO thing too, or is it?
Yeah, it's I guess an MMO. It's not. It's not like you're in the world with thousands at once, but people sort of come and go into your world and into other worlds, and it has like the whole United States. In theory, I think it takes like 45 minutes to an hour to drive from coast to coast, so it's pretty big. And yeah, so there's constantly people in the world, and you can't play it single player. I wanted to start over because I was trying to make a video about it for the site, and there isn't even save data on my console. It's all saved on their servers, so if their servers go down, you don't get to play at all, which is fine. Like I'm not against always online games, and like when you know that, but the thing is that it doesn't tend to work out very well. You look at things like SimCity, and I mean, Drive Club isn't only online. Drive Club has quite a bit to do offline, but if you look at the online of Drive Club, you look at any number of disasters, Battlefield last year. There's reason to be nervous about a game that requires you to be connected to their servers to play.
Not only that, but what about a year from now, a year and a half from now, a couple years from now? Like, it's not like the PlayStation 4 is going anywhere, right? I mean, I know it. I don't know. Yeah, for that reason too, I just worry about this game. If I'm trying to play it in a couple of years, will anything even work, right? Because if ultimately it gets taken offline or whatever, like that's the other thing about the always online, like even like an NBA 2K, right, which is so tied to online. If I pop this thing in a year and a half, pardon my cat, he missed me. I haven't been around for a while. Will I even be able to like functionally play this game? That's the other thing that I think about. So yeah, that's bad. When did the crew got pushed back, right? Is that?
Yeah, I think it's December 2nd now. I have a feeling though, judging by the reaction to this beta, that it's going to get pushed. Because the same thing happened with Watch Dogs, even though Watch Dogs wasn't a public beta, but from what I heard from people who know more things than I do, they were doing internal tests, like how like companies will hire like X game reviewers to review, like they'll give them a copy of the game and say, what score would you give this, so they can predict the Metacritic. And Watch Dogs was like tanking really hard, and that's why it got delayed. Like I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks before the game even launched. It got delayed until the following June. I would not be surprised if. I mean, this time it wouldn't be, like their internal reviewers. It would be us. But I've been reading the thread on NeoGAF, and there's like 5 dudes who like it, and 100 plus who just think it's complete garbage.
Interesting. All right, we talked about it a little bit. I want to talk a little bit more. NBA 2K15. You're playing it. I'm playing it. I really like it a lot. No, that's not true. I love it, and it took me a few weeks to love it. Pete, I think you're, if not loving it, you're close to loving it. Is that true?
Yeah, I'm having more fun with it now.
What happened?
Well, I've gotten better at the game, which helps. Also, I have settled on a mode, and surprisingly, it's their version of Ultimate Team. I forget what they call it. My Team, I think it's called.
I'm shocked. I had no idea about this. You're playing My Team?
Yeah, because, I mean, the problem with basketball for me right now is that I am a Boston Celtics fan, and the Boston Celtics are heavily into rebuilding right now. So they just aren't a fun team to play. Like, especially when you're not good at the game. So, I have my GM where I'm the Celtics, and I'm getting blown out in games, and I'm like, is this because I suck at the game, or is this because the Celtics should be getting blown out in every game? And the my player I found kind of boring. And I just started messing around with the my team thing, and I like some of the players that I have. I actually have Marcus Smart, who is a Celtic. He just rolled his ankle last night in an extremely gruesome way in real life. But he's one of the exciting rookies. So I have him. So I have a Celtic on my team, and I have some other guys. I got Darren Williams also. So I moved Marcus Smart over to shooting guard.
Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah. So like, I'm starting to put together a team that I enjoy playing with, and there's a decent amount of content there to mess around with. I haven't played it online yet. But I've been doing all of the single player stuff, and that's where I've had where my enjoyment of 2K's come from.
It's so funny because I've settled on a mode that I really haven't played very much of. I'm actually playing 2 modes, not 1. But I'm playing my GM, which I hadn't really played much of it, and certainly not in its current form. I really played a lot of the single player and a lot of online, historically in NBA 2K. But my GM is great. It's so great. It's more fun to play because it's not dry. I mean, it's got all of the normal things you would associate with a multi-year single player franchise. You've got full control of the team, and you could obviously make trades and things like that, and you control the finances, and you control the staff and the scouts and things. But there's more to it than just that. There's the player relationships, but there's just like cool things where the GM of another team will just call you, and he's like, "Hey, I got a deal for you. What do you think?" And as you negotiate with them and you go back and forth, if you give them a couple, really insulting offer, they're like, "All right, fine. Don't even call me. I'm not going to pick up the phone." And then you're interacting with the media. They're asking you things, and then based upon what you say, your relationship with the owner will go up or will go down. But that's all kind of cool and interesting. The thing I love the most about my GM is just the basketball. Like, I love playing NBA 2K15 5-on-5 basketball. It's great. It's better every game I play. I'm 6-4 right now with the Brooklyn Nets, and I reached out to a guy I know who's a big NBA 2K guy, Mark Price from the Good Game Bro cast, with our friend Corey.
Right.
And he gave me a couple of tips on a couple trades I could do to make the team better. He also wants me to trade Joe Johnson and Darren Williams. I'm like, I'm not doing that. No way. But
got to keep the core.
it's so good, and it will reward you for playing smart, which is nice. Right. And it punishes you for playing dumb, which is nice. Like I said, I'm 6-4. Last night I won the game on the road. I'm sorry. I won a game at home against Miami on a last-second Joe Johnson buzzer beater 3. I worked to get him open and get the screen, and it worked, and I hit it, and that was great. I love NBA 2K15, man. It is good. It's been a slower burn for me than normal.
Yeah, me too.
And it just came out at a time when there's so much going on. Like, I'm really, I look at the list of just sports games I'm playing. There are 7 or 8 great sports games that I am playing right now. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So that had something to do with it. But yeah, I love NBA 2K, and I also am playing my player. In fact, what I did tonight was I played a quick Madden franchise game on the treadmill, and then I did a game of my player. I enjoy my player quite a bit as well. Not as much quite as I did last year, but certainly I want to play a couple of years.
It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. It just it hasn't hooked me yet. It may still.
And but yeah, I'm a huge fan. I'm all in on NBA 2K15. And in fact, I'm playing. Oh, go ahead.
I do like the My GM mode also, and I'm thinking about doing probably the same thing that the Celtics have been thinking about, which is trading Rondo for somebody, and then putting Smart at the point and getting somebody good, and to make them, in real life it won't make them a contender off the bat, but a point guard can't be the star of your team. Like Rondo was great when he had people to dish it to, So it's like I'd like to get like a small forward or a power forward that that can score, and then and have a decent backcourt and go from there. And if I can build that, then I think I'll have a lot more fun with the game. But the Celtics, as they're built currently, they're built to lose, which isn't very fun.
And man, the game just looks great. It just looks great. I play it every time. I'm like, wow, this game looks great every time. It does. It's weird though, because I'm also playing live, and I like NBA Live. A lot of people enjoy to make fun of me because I like NBA Live 15 this year. I'm sorry. I can't help that I enjoy playing a little bit easier to play, more forgiving, helps you be better, like game. Like that's the difference between NBA. Like NBA 2K15 beats NBA Live in virtually every way. But the one reason that I can play NBA Live 15 on the treadmill, for example, and have fun is because it's easier. It's not easy, but it's easier to be successful, and it helps you more. Like I've done a few things where I had a beautiful slam dunk when I was like, oh boy, I don't know how I did that, but I sure am glad that just happened because that was great. And that never happens to me in NBA 2K15.
Yeah, and that's what was always fun about Live. It was that it was sort of simcade. It wasn't a straight up sim, but it wasn't an arcade game either. But it definitely, when you got good at it, especially, you could drive the lane and dunk a lot.
Yeah.
And a basketball purist would be like, well, that's now it's played. But when you play it, you're like, but this is kind of fun.
Yep, and I also like the controls better in NBA Live. Not like dramatically better, but I like the pick and roll, the trigger, holding the trigger. I like the shooting a little bit better. That's the biggest thing. When you're playing a couple games of Live and a couple games of 2K, a couple games of Live, like the shooting timing is pretty different, and it will totally mess you up.
Yeah.
The shooting is quicker in Live than it is in 2K, and it's a big.
It feels really long this year.
2K is.
Yeah, like shooting. It feels like you're holding the button down longer than even prior 2K games.
Yeah, and Live is shorter, significantly shorter. That's the big thing. Live's Dynasty has nothing on my GM. Rising Star has nothing on the My Player mode. I've actually dabbled in Ultimate Team. I've played a couple of the single-player things in Ultimate Team, but Ultimate Team, you would be the best judge as to which is better, My Team or Ultimate Team. But Ultimate Team doesn't hook me. It's just I like playing the Dynasty and knowing that I can be successful. And it's kind of just a fun, accidental experiment, playing basically a season in both 2K15 and Live and seeing what happens. I'm 6-4 in both, but they've been different wins and different losses. And it's interesting how in 2K, man, like when I played Oklahoma City. And they had Westbrook and Durant. They crushed my Nets, man. Just throttled me by like 25.
Yeah.
And
2K
beat you up so bad.
Right. 2K's AI that's the big improvement to me, is that they play through the stars. And I actually tested it. I did a fantasy draft, be a GM, just to see, and I played 2 games of it, and then the first game, it just so happened the first game I went up against a team with Kobe, and the second team I went up against the team that had LeBron James, And even though they weren't the like I was thinking maybe they just had certain AI things for specific teams, but even though it wasn't the Lakers and it wasn't the Cavaliers, the team with Kobe still played it through Kobe, and Kobe put up like 28 points on me. And the same thing with LeBron. The AI is a lot better at that, because in years past you would play games against superstars, and then like their point guard would have like 26 points, and the superstar would have like 12.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons that Oklahoma destroyed me, because Westbrook and Durant just had their way with me.
Right.
And 2K, unlike Live, has a bunch of old historic teams, and I've only dabbled with the historic teams. I would love to experiment with them to see if, the 86 Celtics use McHale and Bird and Parrish in the post, and if DJ just dishes, or if you look at, like you say, the box score afterward, and Dennis Johnson has, 24 points and but there's all those great historic teams. I would be shocked if they could have gotten that right, but who knows? Because they definitely have got the current day teams right, and it's really great to hear you say how they also seem to have that for the teams that magically just come together. That's kind of amazing when you think about it, that they're able to make that happen.
Yeah, I thought so. I mean, because to me that signals that there's multiple AI processes going on that sort of are looking at what the conditions on the floor are, instead of somebody being like, I'm going to sit down and make this team play like the Lakers, and then if people get traded, who cares? Whoever comes in, in Kobe's position, Kobe retires, whoever comes in, he's getting the ball 30 times a game.
Right.
Because that would be easy to do, So the fact that this is dynamic, I think, is a pretty big step forward for video game AI or sports game AI.
Have you played Love Trousers?
I have.
I just got it and dabbled in it, and immediately thought to myself, I have no idea how to make this plane fly. And then after a couple of minutes, and I figured that out, then I thought, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. And then a couple of minutes after that, I thought, wow, this music is great, and oh my gosh, I think I know what I'm doing, and wow, this game is fun. Does it?
Yes.
Does it stay that way? Because it sure feels like it's going to stay that way.
It does. It does. It's not a game that I'll sit down and play for an hour or even a half hour, but it's since it came out, it's been on the, I always have a main page on my Vita, like this is the stuff I'm actually playing, and then the 2 or 3 pages below that is like, this is just the stuff I want to look at and not play. It's just like my list of shame of stuff I should finish but don't. And it's been on my top page since it came out, because it is, you can pick it up and play a game for 3 minutes and just play one game of it, but that 3 minutes is really happy and fun and frustrating sometimes, but the art and the music and the way that it all comes together is great.
The music especially. It really, once things get cranking and you hear that music, it's great. I love it. It's so well done. And I'm a sucker for World War II, and it's not World War II, but it's certainly got a lot of that imagery.
Yeah, it's inspired.
Yeah, and I love that too. I really like that. All right, before we get to tweets, we can't let another week go without you talking about it. I really want to hear how this came to be, but you were playing Hearthstone.
Yeah.
What's that all about? Because you said a while ago, if I start playing Hearthstone, that's the only thing I'm going to do. You're rubbing your nose. Is that what's going on here?
Well, my friend, longtime friend, grew up with him. Joe came to visit, and he lives out in San Francisco now, and so I'm in Utah, right on the line near Las Vegas, for people who don't know. So it took him about 10 hours to drive here, and he spent the weekend. And we used to call each other, like we used to play Warcraft 2 back in 1990, like late 93, early 94, where I would set my modem to answer, and he would in-game call my number, and it would connect us, and we would play online over over the like our. It wasn't even 56K back then. It was like 14.4. And we would play over that and have these amazing games, and then call each other right afterwards and be like, "Oh my god, that was so crazy!" So like we have a very long history of playing games, and especially Blizzard games. Like we have a shared love. We started a World of Warcraft clan or guild on the day that the game came out, and that guild is still going. And the game came out in 2005, so and it's the only launch day guild on that server. That's still going and whatnot. So he came down and he's playing, like Hearthstone. It's a trading card game based in the Warcraft universe, and I knew what it was. Obviously, just it's hard to not know what it is. So many people are talking about it, but I also knew I was like, I don't want to get into that. And I just kept watching him play, and he was explaining how the cards work. And I was like, this is a strategy game. And he's like, yeah, what did you think a collectible card game was? And I'm like, dorky? And it was like, and he's like, yeah, it is. He's like, but it's a strategy game. It's a turn-based strategy game. You take a turn and you make a move, and then the other person reacts to it, and and they do something and you react to that. And then he was sitting on my couch on the other side of this wall over here, on his laptop, and I'm right here on my computer, and we're playing against each other because everything these days you can't even play locally anymore. We have to connect through Blizzard servers and everything, and that got me into it. The thing that got me hooked, though, and this is embarrassing, but I was like, okay, I'm playing this game, I'm having fun, I'm gonna buy some cards. Like I have an okay deck. I get all of the sort of meta game, but I just don't have the cards to compete. I'm gonna buy some cards. So I hit the button, and it doesn't do anything. So I hit the button again, and it doesn't do anything. And like in game, like you can earn coins, like you win games, you do quests, whatever. And when you get 100 coins, you go to buy a pack. It has this thing that's like, you purchased a pack. And it's like, yes, okay, like with the coins you earn. So I did that 4 times. I'm like, I don't know what the hell's going on. So I back out, shut it down, completely just shut the whole game down. Opened it up like an hour or two later. It's like, okay, I'm gonna play some more Hearthstone. I go and look, and I have like 70 unopened packs sitting in my thing, and I'm like, are you fucking serious? I'm like, I don't like the account that it was taking money out of. I didn't even have the money to cover it in that account, and I'm like online banking and moving money. I'm like holy shit. I get up. I'm like, Arnade's gonna fucking kill me. Like I instantly got on Blizzard like tech support. I'm like, nothing popped up. Nothing told me that like this happened. I'm like, this is not okay. And they basically were just like, sorry, no refunds. And I was like, well, if I have all these cards, I might as well get into the game. And that was about a month and a half ago. And I play daily, at least an hour, maybe 3 or 5. It's sad. But I love it. I absolutely love it. I love all of the classes. I love the whole aesthetic of it. I mean, Blizzard's amazing, at presentation. I mean, they're just so good at that, and I have a ton of fun with it. Like at the point now where it's like I should be, right? I mean, all along I should have been pissed off about like getting, like not having wanted to spend that much money. I mean, it ended up being like $50, so it's like it wasn't even like the price of a full price game, and I've definitely got more hours out of it than I have like most $60 games. So, I mean, that's how I've justified it in my mind. But yeah, I really, really have a good time with that game, and it's like I'll play it and I'll play 2 or 3 games, and I'm like, fuck this game, turn it off, and I'm like, I'm gonna go do something else, and I do that for like 3 minutes, and then I'm like, I need to play Hearthstone again, and it's bad, it's bad, especially like writing. Like I'm writing and I'm like, I don't know what, like where I'm going with this. I should play a game of Hearthstone and then come back to it. And it works. It works.
Hey, we all have those games, right? And there's nothing wrong with that.
I cannot wait for the Android release when I can play that on my tablet. Because right now I have one of those. It's like Google Chrome remote desktop, so I can kind of play it through that, but that ends up lagging out a lot, which is frustrating. So when I can actually play it for real on a tablet, I'm just gone. It's all over. I'm going to be 700 pounds. Like, I haven't left this couch in 14 years, and I'll just be playing. Feel like I have 77,000 Hearthstone cards.
I'll wash myself with a rag on a stick.
Exactly.
How about we do some tweets, Mr. Dodd? What do you say?
Sounds good.
We have some good ones. Our friend Soren, speaking of Blizzard, says, what are your thoughts about Blizzard entering the FPS arena?
I was surprised, but watching the trailer, it looks like a Blizzard game. Like it.
What game is that, by the way? I honestly don't. I've been away much of the last couple of weeks. What game is that?
Yeah. The trailer came out yesterday or the day before, so while you were on your family vacation. It's called Overwatch. It is a class-based first-person shooter. I think it's first-person. It's kind of like Team Fortress. It's cartoony. It's sort of, they're not superheroes, but they're, it's all sort of different kind of just caricatures of things. And from what I've read from the hands-on at BlizzCon, because that's happening this weekend, they also announced a new add-on coming for Hearthstone that I'm really excited about. So it's like a class-based, it's like, I'm going to be the big fat guy, or I'm going to be like, the skinny girl who runs and can teleport, or I'm going to, sort of like a Team Fortress kind of game. A lot of personality. It's not grotesquely violent. It's not, just like gritty shooter. It's like fun, colorful shooter. Like you should watch actually the trailer for it, because it's very little gameplay, but it's almost Pixar quality CG, like the way that they tell the story of like why the fighting is happening, and it's like a teenage kid with his little brother walking through like this museum. The little brother's all really excited, and it's like, it's adorable. It's like, it's not what you think of when you think of shooters, it's like, so, I think it's cool. A lot of people are like, well, just what we need, another shooter. And it's like, well, we kind of do need more shooters that aren't Call of Duty. I mean, yeah, if Blizzard was like, here's our take on modern warfare, I would be right along with them saying, we don't need this. But like, yeah, like a shooter, the mechanics of shooters are fun, so let's put it into a more colorful, fun kind of realm, kind of like Splatoon is doing on the Wii U, and like Team Fortress 2, has been doing for years on the PC.
When does it come out? Like, is it near or far?
Beta in 2015 is all they've announced.
Then I'm not watching anything. If it's not coming out in the next week or two, then right. I'm not.
No, it's definitely not coming out in the next week or two. It's Blizzard. I'm assuming it sounds like it's a 2015 game, but Blizzard is notoriously slow. And it's typically worth it because when you get one of their games, you can tell where the time went. It's not like Duke Nukem Forever, where you're like, this took 8 years. Like they put a lot of love into their games.
Plus, being Blizzard, it's more than just a shooter, I would presume, right? Because, I mean, Blizzard's known for their games that have incredibly long tails and such, right? I mean, you're talking World of Warcraft, you're talking Diablo, I mean, you're talking franchises that people spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours in, and so I would presume there will be some of those standard Blizzard hooks in here as well.
Yeah, me too. They are big on lore and they are big on strategy. I mean, they started out way back. Their first games were like 2D platformers, but they got big with Warcraft and then Warcraft 2, and then Diablo and then StarCraft. So like they have this strategy / RPG background. That's the foundation of everything that Blizzard has ever done. So yeah, I would be shocked if there wasn't a good amount of that mixed in.
Soren also says, do you think that Activision shutting down SharePlay for Call of Duty is the beginning of the end for the new feature? When I was playing Pasta Padre online in SharePlay, at one point he mentioned, boy, this is so good, it's almost too good to be true. And recently we have come to discover that several big games do not allow SharePlay, and that while it's completely understandable that you would have to, as Sony, allow companies to opt in or opt out of having their games be capable of SharePlay, it seems disappointing. But I got to tell you, Pete, and this is not probably going to come out right, but I'll just say it anyway. I haven't done SharePlay since that one first night. Mm-hmm. It's a great thing, but for me personally, I can't pretend to fake outrage at this because I don't see me being able to use it very often. It doesn't mean that I don't want it to be there on every game and all the time, but right. Just for me personally, it's something that is great to know it's there, but it just doesn't quite fit into my gaming life at the moment. But I don't know. Very disappointing for sure to hear about the ability to get out of it and the games that have elected to be out of it. That's definitely disappointing, no doubt.
Right. Well, the only game that has intentionally elected to be out of it thus far is Call of Duty. The other games that have issues with it, it's the share button and streaming and share play are basically the same things in terms of the rules that govern it. So the older games that have trouble, like with, it's like, well, like Minecraft, like there's this initial section of Minecraft where you can't see it, but then you can after that. That wasn't the block share play, that was, for whatever reason, they didn't want people streaming that part of the game. They didn't want people recording videos of that part of the game. and that them putting that block on blocked SharePlay when SharePlay came out, later. So, the Call of Duty is the only game that's come out so far that has blocked it. It's certainly not going to be the last. I understand where Activision is coming from, because the Call of Duty franchise is on the decline. Call of Duty single player is typically very short, so having, and kids will put up with that shit more than we would. Like, you and I wouldn't sit down and be like, let's share play a 6-hour game. It would just be too much of a pain in the ass, but like a couple 12-year-olds totally would, So I can see why they blocked it, for that reason. And also, with Call of Duty, you can do split screen online. So again, you could share play and have split screen going, and then be able to play online with your friend and stuff like so. I understand why they blocked it. I don't agree with it. Like, I wouldn't have done it. I still feel like SharePlay sells more games than it prevents sales of. But I could see it becoming, like, especially with games like that, games with shorter campaigns. I could see, blocking SharePlay for the first couple weeks, the first month, whatever, and then lifting the sanctions after that, because then you want a demo out there to get people into it. So, yeah, I'm not worried about it yet, because I think that the consumers are getting their way these days, and mostly because of social media. And and it's annoying to a certain extent. Like, you get on Twitter and everyone's like, "Fuck this whatever thing, I'm pissed at it." But then that whatever thing ends up getting changed because of all of the people complaining about it, and it's like, people aren't really happy that about the Assassin's Creed parody thing, for instance. So now everyone's running away from parody. Right? No. We're working towards, maximizing each platform. So like all the people who were going nuts about that, I was like, oh my gosh, you guys need to shut up. But at the same time, kind of paid off, because now everyone's like, no, we're not doing that. And I think it's the same thing's going to happen with share play stuff. The games that don't have it are going to hear it, and then other games. The games that do have it are, they're going to benefit. So I think in the end it will work itself out. But is Call of Duty going to be the last game to block it? No. There'll definitely be more.
I would love to know, and I don't know if there's any way. No, in fact, I would guess there is no way. But I would love to know the analytics of those who will play a game they otherwise would not have purchased via share play, that then will wind up going out and buying it.
Yeah.
Because I think that it is a great sales and marketing tool, as opposed to a way for me to play games that I'm never going to buy. But I was also never huge into Napster and downloading tons and tons of music. I was never big into pirating movies and watching bootleg copies, but yet there are lots and lots of people who do. So the way that I feel about certain things, I don't necessarily think always translates into reality. So, my mind tells me not making your game available via share play is a dumb thing, but I don't know. These guys probably have a pretty decent idea of the ratio of games that get share played to those that get bought. I'm not sure.
Well, I don't think they do know yet, and that's the worry, because of the fact Call of Duty in particular is on a pretty steep decline. Ghosts did far worse than Modern Warfare 3, or was it Blops 2? I forget which was the last one before that. And the pre-orders for this one were down from Ghosts, so they're worried about the franchise right now. So I think Activision's doing, because it's been a cash cow, they're doing we need to protect this with everything that we have. And I think that, it's a share play. I don't know what this is going to do to sales. Just fucking block it. I think that's about as long as they thought about it. We have no idea what this is, what it's going to do. Just fucking get rid of it. We'll think about it later.
Right. Better to just shut it down and not know, and open it up and expose ourselves, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Let's see, another one. This one from Trey to Tripa. He says, "Please, Pete Dodd, pull some strings so a Mag HD comes to life."
Oh,
those of us who know Pete Dodd know that he loved himself some Mag back in the day.
I did. Man, that game was good. It was so good, and did so poorly.
And isn't the team who made it long dispersed to the wind?
Yes. Zipper is no more. They made many games that I loved. They made SOCOM 1 and 2. They made other SOCOMs, but I love SOCOM 1 and 2. They made Crimson Skies on the Xbox.
Oh, what a game. What a game.
Amazing game. And they made MAG on the PS3. They also made SOCOM 4 on the PS3, which was a piece of shit, but what are you going to do? And then they made Unit 13 on the Vita. That was their swan song. And like about a week and a half after that came out, Yoshida was like, "Fuck these guys," and dissolved them. Because that's how Yoshida is. He's on Twitter. He's like, "Fuck these guys." Add Zipper. Fuck you. Go home.
Oh, man. Excuse me. Sorry. Another good one from our good friend Nicholas West, Mr. Angry Pants, from the Fortnite to Finish show. What is your least favorite genre of game? What genre do you think will have the smallest presence this generation? I mean, I think my least favorite genre of game has become the first-person shooter. Not because of the violence per se, because I think nasty, gross makes me uncomfortable, makes me like lose my lunch kind of. Violence is not really a staple of the first-person shooter so much as it is the action game. But to me, first-person shooter is my least favorite genre just because it feels so old and stale, and like people are not bringing new ideas forward. I mean, I've played some really interesting first-person shooters over the last few years, like Spec Ops: The Line, like Enemy Front. That, yes, they were first-person shooters, but there was so much other interesting going on in it that made it fun. I don't. Those are so rare that, to me, yeah, the FPS is my least favorite genre. What is your least favorite genre, Pete?
I think, beyond the obvious, like, I don't like kids games or whatever, or I don't like, free-to-play in-app purchase phone games, but like actual genres that exist that, that people who I respect play quite a bit of. I would say rhythm games are the ones, like all sorts of different rhythm games, like whether they require the Kinect or if it's just like anything like that game Kickbeat, where you just have to time your button presses and like there's music going. And it's not even really that I dislike the genre as much as that I'm just garbage at them. So it's not fun to play a game that you can't get out of the first level of. And that's me with any sort of rhythm-based game.
The second half of that question is, what genre do you think will have the smallest presence this generation? Uh, it's really interesting. I know I've said that about 4 times in the last 3 minutes, but you look at certain types of games that have come and gone. Your skateboarding games, the Tony Hawk series is gone, but there's rumor it's coming back.
Yeah.
The Guitar Hero / Rock Band games have gone. Connect games, pretty much done, I would say.
Fantasia just came out, and I don't think anyone gave a shit, and that's probably all she wrote for Kinect games.
That's the last one, right? There's nothing else coming after that, right?
Not that I mean, I'm sure there's something, but that nothing comes to mind.
So, I don't know. I have a feeling that the sort of, I don't know. I just don't see the. It feels to me like the music game was the genre that has come and gone. I don't feel like that'll be making a comeback. I think that'll have the smallest presence.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think that the over-the-top arcade sports games are gone, though that is something that can change. Like, if somebody releases one and it's awesome, we can see a whole... But, like, I miss EA Big, even though when it first came out, I used to make fun of it because it was like, EA Big! We're extreme and shit, But it's like I miss those games now, and I miss what 2K's baseball game.
It was amazing. Love that game.
It was fantastic, and
good single player, good multiplayer. I mean, it had it all. It was superb.
Right, and what do we have in a year on next-gen consoles? RBI Baseball? Like, that's the only one that came out, and I never even played it. I mean, I don't even think it's over-the-top arcade. I think it's just simplistic. And there's nothing on the horizon that I know about, and I miss that genre. And like snowboarding games and shit, I'm glad that I hope that Tony Hawk comes back with a good skateboarding game, but I want a good next gen snowboarding game. Like, how amazing could mountains and snow and with the particles and everything look on these systems, I miss those types of sort of over the top sort of experiences that are based off of real life shit. Like, you can go snowboarding, but the stuff you do in this game you can't do in real life. And you can go play baseball, but not jump 50 feet and rob a home run in front of the Green Monster. I miss that type of thing, and there's no signs of it coming back at this point.
How did SSX do? Because the last one that came out a few years ago was good. It wasn't great, amazing, awesome, but it was good. I don't think it did that well, did it?
It didn't do that well, and it wasn't... It was really uneven. I owned it. I bought it digitally because I like games like that so much. There were major design issues with it. Like, you are doing a race and you fall off the edge of a mountain, you have to rewind and go back up to where you were. But when you do that, the game doesn't pause for the AI guys. So it takes you 15 seconds to resituate yourself while they just keep going down the mountain. And it's this is it doesn't make any sense. Either just instantly respawn me, or when I rewind, pause them. There's just a lot of stuff like that that made the game extremely frustrating to play. But when it was good, good events on good courses, It was fantastic.
Agreed. Jeremy Wright, Master Germ, says he's looking forward to the Science Ball playoffs. Sorry, Pete. Been a fun season so far. He is referring, of course, to our Dodd Scientifics Madden League, which I played week 17, beat the Giants. I don't think I'm going to get the number 2 seed. I don't think I'll get that first week bye, but I gave it my best shot. But I won the division as the Eagles. I'm very proud of myself.
Nice. I won out with the Lions. I'm the Lions in the Dodd Scientific League.
That's amazing.
And I had a 2 and a 5, and then on the river, 3 5s came down, and
there it is.
I had an awful season, but I got better at the end of the season. The same thing happened in the Press Row League, which I won out on as well. So I'm feeling better about my Madden skills, and in both leagues I have a ton of cap room. I'm going for all your free agents. I'm going to have pretty good, probably top 10 draft pick in both leagues. So I'm feeling good about next year for both of them. As far as the playoffs go in either league, I don't give a shit. I'm not.
I'm not in them. I don't care.
Just tell me when to flip it. I won't even be paying attention.
Spitzarelli says, have you ever disliked a genre and then played a game that changed the way you thought of said genre? I don't know that I ever disliked tower defense games, but Pixel Junk Monsters, I love that game like crazy. And now I know that I know that there are probably 4 or 5 quote-unquote tower defense games that I could probably go play and thoroughly enjoy based upon playing my first one and having it be Pixel Junk Monsters, which we've spoken about, is just wonderful. Love that game.
Right. For me, I would say, well, I guess going back to the rhythm game genre, I don't like it at all, but I really loved Space Channel 5 on the Dreamcast. And I don't know why that game clicked with me and the rest of them haven't. But yeah, that game is why I keep playing ones that come out. I'm like, maybe this will rekindle that, and it doesn't.
By the way, our friend Scott O'Gallagher, who works on NBA 2K15 and is obviously watching the show live, said there is an 80s freelance system just for those historic teams, going back to our conversation about how the game will play with the old school teams. So yeah, they did that too.
That is fantastic.
It is fantastic.
Give your AI guys a pat on the back, and if you're one of them, pat yourself on the back, even if that's awkward.
All right, let's wrap it up with this one because we haven't talked about it. I presume you've still been playing it unless Hearthstone has ended that for you. Again, from Scoba1, he says, Mortar seems greater than the sum of its parts. Is it goulash or chili, chicken soup for the Soul Reaver? Pete, have you been back to the Shadows of Mordor, and does it continue to be as good as it was for you last time we spoke about it?
Yeah, I love this game. It is easily my favorite single-player game of the year. I think I would, at this point, I'd put Titanfall and Destiny above it. But like in terms of single-player, I can't get enough of it. I am now in a new area. One of the few complaints I had about the game was that it was just really, really brown. And now I'm in an area that's really, really green. So that's cool. I like green more than brown. It is greater than the sum of its parts, but a lot of its parts are really good. You know, like the combat can be repetitive, which is a big complaint. It can also be kind of cheap if there's just too many guys on the screen. But there's a lot of things that the game does extremely well. The stealth is really forgiving, which makes it fun. The whole archery, especially once you get the move, like you draw a bow on somebody, but you can tap a button to teleport directly behind them and then stick a knife through the back of their head, which I know is exactly what you're looking for in the game. And like, so there's a lot of special moves like that. The wouldn't I wouldn't say the story is good. Most video game stories aren't good, but the voice acting and whatnot is really strong. So the characters are interesting, which is really all. I mean, even if you look at like the Uncharted games, the story in Uncharted isn't that great, but like you like Drake, you like Sully, you like the characters. I think The Last of Us and Spec Ops: The Line are like a couple of the few games that actually have an interesting story to go along with interesting characters. But yeah, I love it, and yeah, I mean it's better if someone was to just look at the combat and be like, really, this game is great. Like I don't think so. And it's like, well, no, you have to see it with everything else. Like, it's just a small sort of slice of the pie. And when you put it all together, it's awesome. If you just took some individual things out, they're weaker than others. But there are things that are really strong as well, like the voice acting and the music. And I love it. Absolutely love it.
The people that I know and respect, that I listen to or that I talk to, that have played Mordor, all love the game. Every single one of them. Whether it's Greg Seward or Garnet Lee or the guys from the Thankfully Back Double KO podcast, it magically showed up in my feed 2 months after their last show, and I immediately listened to it. And they were talking about it. Now, everyone I respect and has played this game loves it. So I just know that I'm not going to play it, not because of anything other than there's just so many games for me to play. Like I don't see the situation that would have me play this game instead of one of 50 other games. But
yeah, it's a single player game. It's long. Yeah. It's not super long. It's not like a JRPG, but it's pretty long. And it's extremely violent. I mean, it's orcs. You're not killing humans, but it's still, a sword through the head is a sword through the head.
But everyone says it feels great. They love the whole thing when you kill a guy and then he comes back and he's all beaten and bruised. But, that's that guy that you kill that he knows you know him. Like, that all sounds really, really cool.
It is. The whole Nemesis system is amazing, and you create rivalries with this guy. I had this one guy, I forget what his name was, but because they all have a name and then a sort of description added to it. So it's like, blah, 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 the giant, or blah, 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 the swordsmith. And there's this one guy that was called blah, 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 the uncatchable. And this dude either killed me or whenever I got really close to killing him, just ran away at a trillion miles an hour. And every time that happened, like if they escape the battle, they get stronger. Or they do like when I eventually die and then they show you like, so this guy, like he started at like basically like it's power levels. Like he started at like power level 5. He was like power level 19 by the time that I killed him, and you only get one per time. So like we just had so many run-ins, so many like I would be doing a quest that has nothing to do with him. He'd be there. I'd hit him a couple times. He'd run away, get more powerful somehow from running away from me. And I hated him so much. So when I finally killed him, so good. It was so good.
I love it. All right, Mr. Dodd. I think this was a show.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody, for listening, for watching, for tweeting. Excellent tweets tonight, as always. Helps make Pete and I look better. So.
And I need help because it's Movember and I got this going on right here.
Yeah, I've got this. Been away on vacation for a couple days. Mess, whatever this is. So.
By the end of November, this thing's going to be pornographic. For those listening to the MP3, I'm pointing at my upper lip currently.
Well, that is something to look forward to for sure. The holidays, Thanksgiving, and Pete Dodd mustache pornography.
What more could you want?
All right, Pete. Thank you for being on the show tonight. Obviously, it was a pleasure chatting with you. I guess we probably won't have a chance to talk again until we do this next week. How about we do this next week? What do you say?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you do find yourself with a day, I would like to share play NBA Live.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's actually plan for something like that, and we'll stream it and we'll chat about it while we're doing that. That could be fun.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
One night this week. I'll be home a couple nights this week, so let's do that one night this week for an hour. Play a game.
Yeah.
I look forward to it.
I'll record it and put it on the site. Content.
Done and done. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Mr. Dodd, anything before we call it an evening?
No, I'm good. Have a good one.
All right, you too, sir.